Hello, and welcome to Runnah, running on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and beyond. I'm Juliana, your host. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. Just a reminder at the top of the episode, because I always forget to do this, if you are not already subscribed to the podcast on your podcasting platform of choice and or on YouTube, please go ahead and do so. And if you'd like to leave a rating or review on your podcasting platform of choice, or drop us a comment in the YouTube channel, that would be really awesome. It's great to get some feedback from people, and I love to see what people think about the podcast. So if you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions, or if you'd like to just leave us a lovely, cheeky 5-star review, I would really appreciate that. So thank you so much for putting up with that for now. But welcome, friends, to 2025. Here we are. And I thought we would start off the year with a little mini episode with just me, because I'm working on getting some guests scheduled in for 2025 right now. And I thought we would talk about goal setting, because that's something that a lot of people are doing right now as we're heading into the beginning of the year. People are writing New Year's resolutions, which I'm not a fan of, and also just setting goals for themselves, both within running and outside of running. And I just wanted to talk about my goals for 2025 in regards to running, and also just some antidotes that I have about goal setting. So I think first we'll talk about just setting goals in general when it comes to running related things. And here's my antidote as someone who has ADHD, also has chronic health conditions, also has been running for a hot minute now. And my general sentiment about goals is that you should set goals that are lofty in a way that is achievable, and also break things down into smaller bits, and try not to set too many goals at once. And that was a lot of things in one sentence right there. So let's kind of roll that back. And let's start with trying not to set too many goals at once. And this kind of stems from the ADHD side of Juliana, of if I set like 10 goals, I'm probably not going to get to any of them because I'm going to forget. And then I'm going to be like all over the place doing one thing for one goal and one thing for the other goal. And by the time the rest of the year rolls around, I've gotten like 25% of the way through those 10 goals, as opposed to me setting 2 to 3 goals and then funneling that energy into that. That definitely is a lot more achievable, because the purpose of a goal is to achieve it. It's not to just set it and forget it, or set it and just come back to the end of the year and be like, oh, didn't even touch on that. If it's something you know you're not going to get done this year, don't put it on your goals list. Just don't do it. Just save it for next year if that's the year for it. So just setting less goals, I think, is a good place to start. And going through and prioritizing, hey, is this a goal that I want to do this year? Can I save it to next year? What's the most important thing to me? Maybe this year running isn't going to be your number one focus. So your running goals are going to be to run 3 times a week, every week. And that's just going to be your running goal for the year, because maybe you're moving, or you're adopting a puppy, or you're getting married. I don't know. But I would say assess your situation and don't set too many goals, and try to set goals that are going to be challenging, but are like realistically reachable within the means that you have. So what that could mean is, like, for me, one of my goals this year is to run my first 30-mile race, or 50K. But here's the thing. I've been running marathons since 2018, and I've run 4 out of the 6 major marathons. And if anyone has run any of the major marathons before, you know that you end up walking/running about 28 to 30 miles the entire day anyway. And like when I just went and did Clarence DeMar, I went for like a 4-mile walk after my marathon after I took a nap anyway. So I know I can do the 30 miles in a day. It's just doing it in one go. And also we're going to be doing it on light trails, which is going to be new to me. But again, this is not unrealistic. I just started trail running like a month or 2 ago, and I'm having some help from our good buddy Ben. And it's not an unrealistic goal. It's a lofty goal, but it's not an unrealistic goal, and especially for the time frame of this year. So I would say set things that are challenging, things that you know are going to give you a good kick in the butt, but things that are in your wheelhouse. I don't want to go out there and be like, this year I'm going to space, which, you know what, I might be able to. You never know. You never know. But where I stand currently, I don't have any connections with anyone who's part of like NASA or anything like that, or I'm not in with like Muskie Boy. But I think that setting realistic goals that are challenging but achievable is a good place to start. And I think, like I said earlier, my last thing would be to break it down into smaller bits and pieces. Again, this comes down to, one, me having ADHD and needing things broken down and doing things one step at a time and not trying to just look at the big picture and feeling overwhelmed and then never even taking action on whatever that goal is. And also a long history of being a dietitian, helping people reach their goals for nutrition, all these things. And I have a history of just like doing counseling with people to help them reach goals like this. So I've been in that arena before where I've helped other people reach those goals, and also myself. I've reached goals. I've done things. Like, have I done everything? No, but I've done enough things where I've achieved some goals that I've set for myself. So I would say break things down into smaller pieces. If you want to run a marathon this year, break down your training plan. Actually look at a calendar and be like, hey, I'd like to get to this amount of mileage before this date. And then I also need to sign up for the race. And then I also need to plan my accommodations. And I need to do these things and that things. And if you have any questions, if you're going to run the Cape Cod Marathon this year, which you should, you definitely should, we're going to have the Lobster Challenge this year, which is the half marathon on the Saturday and the 5K on the Sunday. Is only going to be open to 100 participants. So, you could do it. Yeah. But if you're going to do something like that, if you're going to do Cape Cod Marathon, hit me up. I'll give you the DL on everything. But break things down into smaller bits and pieces. And I think the last thing I would say is give yourself grace, which is the easiest thing to say and the hardest thing to do. Just because I, again, am someone who has a chronic illness. I have had to step back a bunch of times and just kind of be at the mercy of whatever my body decides it's going to do. But also within that realm, like knowing myself well enough to the point where like I know where I can push myself. Like last year when I got my emergency colon resection, the week afterwards I went out for a 14-mile walk because I was supposed to get in a 14-mile long run. And I said, fuck this. I'm going to get in a 14-mile walk. And I did. And granted, when I did that, I know what it feels like to be in my body. I know my limits. I'm one of those runners who's just too aware of their body sensations and things like that. And I also was really prepared. I brought tons of hydration. I went on the bike path where there's benches, where there's people, where there's easy access if there's an emergency. I went somewhere that was safe with all of the safety precautions and did it in the safest way possible and came back and I was fine. And again, I know my body very well. So that is something that you also have to take into account is your own body. But sometimes because my joints just do whatever the heck they want, I have to modify my plans. I can't do certain things because my body has decided that, hey, we're just going to be in a lot of pain today. And pushing us past that point isn't going to be a good idea. One thing I like to tell myself is don't be too greedy, Juliana. Because when we get greedy is when we get really injured and we have real problems, not just a few like aches and pains here and there, and not something like our body is throwing up at us that we didn't really actually have anything to do with. Because sometimes my body will just, like right now, I'm going through an SI joint flare up where I didn't do anything. I got in my car, I drove to the store, got out of the car at the store, and then all of a sudden my hip was on fire. So things like that just happen to me. It's just a thing, and we'll talk about my chronic illness at some point, but just know that I have been humbled by my body more times than I care to admit. And it's a process that you have to go through, kind of accepting that and just being okay with having to take a break or just taking a breath and not being mad at yourself, which is something, again, I still struggle with. It's not a perfect art in any format of the word. So I would say just give yourself grace. I also like to say you can only run the mile you're in, which pretty much just means that you can only be in this moment. And I have that written on my arm as a tattoo. And sometimes my arm is smarter than my brain. And sometimes we just have those days where our arm is smarter than our brain and we just have to accept it. So yeah, give yourself some grace, my friends. Give yourself as much grace as you can because, we're all just out here on these streets trying our best. So that's all you can do. But in regards to goal setting, that's what I would say. I would say look for lofty but achievable goals, break it down into small bits, give yourself some grace, and get out there and try your best. I'm proud of you. I think you're going to do great this year. And we'll just circle back around real quick and say what my goals are for this year in regards to running specifically. One, I'd like to do more trail running. I've started doing that and I feel like it's going to be a good idea, especially because one of my big goals and probably my biggest running specific goal this year is to run a 30 mile 50K trail ultramarathon. I've never run that distance before and I've never run that distance on a trail, and we'll see how it goes. So that is kind of like my big goal. My other two big goals for running are going to be running the 26 Point True Marathon in Boston. So that's the Saturday before the Boston Marathon. It's the Boston Marathon that's actually in all of Boston. Kind of like a low-key fat ass, but it should be a lot of fun. And also, I'll be running the Berlin Marathon this year with Team for Kids, which is really exciting. And if you'd like to donate to that, I am doing fundraising for Team for Kids, which is a fabulous organization. If you'd like to donate to that, I'll put the link in the description down below. And I would absolutely love if anyone wanted to donate to Team for Kids. I've worked with them before and will continue to work with them. I think they're a fabulous organization and they do a lot of good. So I would absolutely be so thankful if anyone wanted to donate to my fundraiser for Team for Kids so I can run the Berlin Marathon. But yeah, so we're going to do 26 Point True Marathon in April. I think it's the Watapa 50K in May. And then in September, we have the Berlin Marathon, which is very exciting. So I am excited to see what all of you guys are going to be up to this year. So please, down below the YouTube video or in the comments on Spotify or on any of our Instagram or TikTok posts, which are both at Runnapod, please go ahead and comment below what your goals for 2025 are for running. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the show, both on YouTube and your podcasting platform of choice. Don't forget to find us on our social media at Runnapod. And you can send us an email with your goals at runnapod@gmail.com. And I have two really amazing guests that are going to be coming on to our next two episodes of the show. And until next time, I will see you guys on the next episode of Runnah. Thank you for listening to this episode of Runnah. This podcast is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Juliana Coughlin. Brought to you in part by the Falmouth Running Club and the Falmouth Community TV station. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at Runnapod. And you can send us an email at runnapod@gmail.com. And our original theme music was brought to you by the one and the only wonderful Jeffrey Hutton. And keep up the great work. I'm proud of you.